Yo, man, I ain't gonna front. It's been a long journey. I mean, damn, Greg, it's 20 episodes. That means it's
20 weeks,
automatically 20 weeks. Goodness, man, no, I'm
5 months
enjoying it.
worth, just over
Shoot.
5 months. We had a 1 week break in between
Yeah,
after episode 13, but Daima is officially wrapped. We just finished watching episode 20. So a lot of thoughts. Some of them aren't fully formed, but what did you think about episode 20 specifically? Not Daima as a whole. We'll get to that at as another discussion. But what do you think about episode 20, titled Maximum?
it felt like the Dragon Ball ending that like we always get at one level or
Yeah,
another, but it was
absolutely. Yeah,
handled very well, and that's what I can
I think so
appreciate.
too.
Yeah, like they eased out into the, well, shoot, I guess just jumped right back into the action to make sure we could handle Goma. We did that. It had the, I guess we could say little, what's, I guess,
Twists
gimmick
and turns.
joke. Yeah. Definitely the twist and turns, and then the little final joke of the one to be saving the day is the
Yeah, yeah,
future
yeah.
Supreme
King
Demon
Koo.
King. King Ku is hard. I like
I
that,
love
man.
it. I
I
like
did.
him. Yeah.
So yeah, man, it was really dope. I think it was a great ending experience, and we'll get into like the second half of the more or less second half of the episode much later, but like for
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
the action, how did you feel about Super Saiyan well, we'll talk about what we named it later, well, what he
Yeah.
named it later, but how did you feel about Super Saiyan 4 versus Goma? That was really that was it. That's
It,
peak right there.
it was different to kind of, I mean, I don't know how it could have gone any other way, to be honest, but it was a lot more hand to hand than
Yes.
I kind of expected. There was very few like key blasts, and obviously there was the big Kamehameha, and there was a couple of others just before that. But there was one point where Goku threw a key blast, and it happened just after I finished thinking to myself, I was like, he's thrown nothing but fists and kicks, and I'm all for it. I love it. I like it when they kind of, even though it's as flashy and as bombastic as it can be sometimes with Dragon Ball, even when it is fist to fist, I like that. It's more martial arts to me, whereas I think the key blast kind of stuff can turn into a bit more like, I guess, Star Warsy, just shooting
Yeah.
lasers at one another.
Definitely.
So I welcomed that change. The only thing I'd say is that I guess the environment is probably to blame for this, but the environment didn't encourage Goku to move like he did when he was a kid Super Saiyan 4, like that monkey kind of like he was using his knuckles to almost propel himself
Yeah.
forward a lot when he was a kid. And I was hoping they might keep that trend of like this is how Super Saiyan 4 moves. He's got these big mitts for his forearms and his hands. They're integral to his movement. It didn't seem so much like that. They were flying a lot more. That was just something I noticed. It's not necessarily a criticism. It's just something I noticed. But yeah, I really like it. What about yourself? Anything you noticed that caught your eye?
No, I'm exactly with you. I was waiting when he was flying because he was using his, I guess, like Goma's statue, like his giant form,
Yes.
against him
Yeah.
for the most part, right? So like he was dodging key blasts even at close range. Just he was telegraphing Goma fairly well. And like you're saying, I was waiting for him to do more of that, like monkey scrambling, grappling, looking around like jumping through the jungle type of movement. I was waiting for him to do it again. I kept waiting. Every time, Goma would summon more rocks or summon a giant
Yeah.
laser
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something. I'm like, let's see how Goku, when he's gonna do it again. And they
Ooh. Can
really
you imagine if
they
he
didn't. That's kind of caught me off guard. What were you saying?
sorry, you just put it in my head. You know, when you were saying like, oh, when he was summoning the beams and the rocks and all the rest, whether Goku would move. I imagine if Goku did some sort of a movement thing to like surf the ki blast in a monkey
Yeah,
style, the way
that's what I
Vegeta
thought he
did in
was
Dragon
gonna.
Ball Broly.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I love that. That would have been
I'm
sick.
I'm really
But
waiting
yeah, no,
every single attack, like every one of these super attacks Goma's doing. I'm just waiting. But yeah,
I guess maybe that's half the problem with Goma being so big. But he did get very close. Like a lot of his dodges kept him within like a sort of slight uppercuts range. Like he was pummeling him. I really liked the fight. I think I liked it a little bit more last episode, but this was more of the same, which was top tier kind of Dragon Ball combat. And then it obviously ended with a little bit of a gag. Piccolo was there waiting in the wings to sort of knock out the thing, and then the twist and turns was that Goma's got him covered after the two out of the three hits to the back of the head, and then I thought he was going to transform again almost. I was honestly suspicious this wasn't the last episode with some of the moments that we had at the tail end of their fight. I wasn't sure if it was going to keep escalating or go a different way or not. But what do you think?
Yeah, that I would, you kind of, I guess, are insinuating it. I'm not sure if you're talking exactly about Vegeta, but I did enjoy Vegeta having his moment more than the first half of this episode, even though I love both for both characters. I think it's shown aspects of them that we either don't see often or we haven't seen in what feels like a while. It was really cool. Like you're saying, Goku, yes, he has hands. Like we forget to emphasize this because he is at points the greatest martial artist in the known universe, right? But for this one, like you're saying, fisticuffs was emphasized, and when he did that Kamehameha, you called this last week and you did it in reverse. You
Yeah,
were
oh, I
asking,
know.
yeah, I'm. Oh man, I'm hoping I remember to clip it or I can find the clip. But what you, for
I'll get
those
it.
that don't
Yeah.
know in the audience, my guy, what he said was, man, it sucks. When he did that, was it the final flash? You were like, when he did the final flash and Vegeta blew a giant hole in the arena. Damn, it would have been cool if we saw him blow a hole in all three of the worlds and then it opened up a tunnel. And I'm not sure if you called out the water spilling back out, but that like
No,
it
I definitely
happened.
didn't. I don't think.
Okay, but that happening was like, oh, yo, I'm like about to scream. Like, yo, Greg, that's crazy. Like, that's insane to even think of that. And much less it happening the next week was really dope, man. So I like
It
that
was
right
cool.
there.
Yeah.
And then the reference of when he blew the hole through Gomah, of seeing like the Demon King Piccolo type angle was really just a great
Yeah.
callback,
Yeah.
as this entire journey has felt like OG Dragon Ball for the most part. And then the funny part is it felt like OG and it turned right back up into being the crazy I don't even know, like
Total
grand
super
destined
world.
battle of
Yeah.
Super or
Yeah.
Z or even Heroes at some level. Like it's really cool to watch them go through all of these phases. Are there any final thoughts you had on how the battle went, or maybe one thing you would have wanted? I know both of us wanted Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. That was like, it
Yeah.
seemed like it was in the
Yeah.
cards, but they're not going for it.
I feel like that would have been a bit shoot in at this point.
Yeah.
Like knowing what happened in episode 19, knowing that 20 was the finale, knowing how like the beats of this episode were more or less as expected. The fight, the finale of the fight, a little bit of a twist and turn, but ultimately they win, and then kind of the dust settles on the new world, and everyone kind of celebrates. Like that's the beats of the episode, and like you said, that's classic Dragon Ball when it comes to a finale, one way or another. There's a little bit of a fight, whether it's GT or whatever. They have the kid Goku and Vegeta, and but then they say farewell and all the rest. It's classic, but I think Vegeta tagging in or joining in as Super Saiyan 4 would have felt a little bit, I don't know, unnecessary almost. I think how it played out was mostly fine by me. If there was another few episodes, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta would have made a lot more sense, I think, because they would have allowed a little bit more time to sort of let them be. They would have just been making him Super Saiyan 4 for the sake of it if it was this episode, I guess. So I don't have any problems. I had the thought during this episode, you and I have been critical on Goma in specific ways, and I don't think any of them have changed. However, I think he is a really good Dragon Ball villain. I think he could have been better, but I think he's one of the better ones, in at least in the modern era. That post Dragon Ball Z era. I think he's one of the better ones. He holds up as good as any other. What do you think?
You know what? You saying that last part right there just put it in perfect perspective. That's what it is. He, like you said, he has his flaws and sins, and we could judge him against the grander scheme. But I like that to say just post, or I guess just in the modern era, how he stacks up versus the rest of the villains, and like I guess small, like minor, major villains, like the Topos and things like that. But of course, Goma's a big bad boss. it
He is, yeah.
it is really nice to think of him on that scale, because now it makes me appreciate him a lot more, because I think each episode of the fight made him more and more likable, because he's pulling
Unique.
little,
Yeah.
yeah, he's pulling little tricks out of his bag. You're seeing the use of the third eye, I do stand by. You're very much right. We didn't see all of what we wanted to see from Goma without the third eye. I wish they had went into that. But you see mentally where he stands at and how he knew how to manipulate it. I think that was really smart. That was really cool. And like I remember when he first turned into like this giant hulking creature. I was like, man, he kind of seems like he's not
Mm,
really gonna do much. Like he's
yeah.
not that smart. And that's the exact opposite. Like they made sure he was everything and rolled up into one. And even when he's in his smaller state, I did really like, his he's just a panicked little guy. Like I like the way they handled him, and I do enjoy his character more than I thought I would at one point in the series. Are there any final thoughts you have on Goma?
No, not Gomez specifically, but I think we'll bring this clip to a close. The one thing I will ask yourself and everyone else is, what did you think of the little post-credit scene in the shop?
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I
It's cool,
absolutely
huh?
adored it, man. And that is something we could talk about in and of itself because it opened a couple of doors, like it was insinuating some
Yeah,
things.
I don't think
I
it's
know
doing
it's a
anything.
joke. Yeah, it just was really
Yeah,
cool,
I don't
and
think it's doing anything.
it caused a couple of a little couple of debates I saw on certain social media
Oh,
apps.
really?
You know
Okay,
how it
yeah.
goes. But yeah, it just
Ah,
was really cool, man. It was fun to say the
it
least.
was.
So
I
it's
think it was
just
beautiful too. Like, I mean, we speak about the animation and the art style of this series being at a premium pretty consistently. Like,
yes,
I think I could count on one hand how many times I've looked at this series at any moment and gone, that wasn't quite as good looking as the rest. But for some reason, that scene in the shop, I was like, bro, this is my
yeah,
new style of Dragon Ball. I want more
yeah.
of this. It was really, really, really grainy and arty. I really liked it a lot. But any final thoughts on the episode at all?
Man, it was a hell of a journey, man. I had fun. I mean, highs, lows. I don't care. I'm glad I was there the whole time, week to week, man. I'm glad I
Yeah,
had
me
my
too.
guy with me,
I
man.
wish
That
it
was
went
dope.
longer. That's the only thing I would say. Every criticism I have of Daima is basically solved by having a longer series, which we don't have. So it is what it is, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, all right. I will call it right there, man.
That's
Take it
fine.
easy.
Episode 20, maximum.